Hello, happy Tuesday. Yes, it is more echoey in here than it was last time, but that is because my husband finally figured out how to turn the heat on in what is going to be my office space. Let me show you. Guys, it's huge. It's so big. Oop, my little workings over there. There's even more over here. I mean, there's nothing yet, but there will be. There will be even more over there. I am so excited. I cannot wait to set this up with you guys. I cannot wait to just kind of grow with you guys and grow into the space and into what I really feel like is going to be a phenomenal place to be. Now, I really love this room for a few different reasons. And I originally had it in my head that this was going to be my husband's office space, his workspace, because he's the one that needs to be on the phone and do these things all day, every day during the week. But y'all, he was like, no, I always knew that that was your room. And guys, first of all, I have never in my life had a purple room. And I am so excited. My inner child is screaming so much because this is amazing. I am so excited for that. But one thing that I really love both about this room and about this house is that the energy already feels, I call it activated, but a more friendly way to think about it is the energy feels awake. It feels like it's been woken up and it's waiting to see what I want the vibe of the house to be. And that is very, very refreshing, especially when it comes to rental. On the door to this room, there's a sign that says Anne's Studio, and under it was hanging this adorable little thing. I am totally putting it back because it is so cute. And I can really tell both from all of the little details that I'm finding around the house and just from the energy in general that this house was really, really well cared for. It was really well loved. There's a whole woodworking section. There's a ton of custom things in the house. There are so many little details that I'm assuming are from Anne because they're like flowers and they match her room. And it's very, very precious. And it's not my go-to, but I am so here for it because it is everything that I would want a house to be. And like I said, it's very refreshing to have a rental where the energy is kind of awake because typically when you go into rentals, you get like the landlord special where it's just like a slab of paint on everything. The house feels very dry. The house does not feel like it has anything to it. It doesn't feel like it has an energy, a vibe, like you walk in and it's flat. But when we walked into this house, and the more that I stay here, it is wonderful. I love it so much. The energy is very awake, like I said, and that is so refreshing because to wake a house up, to wake that energy up is a lot of work. And I really hope, fingers crossed, I can forgive the videos that I took because right now I've disowned all of the videos that I've taken when I moved in to try to make that video to show you guys. It has not been working. They are dead to me. So I'm going to go meditate and hopefully forgive those videos and hopefully still be able to make a follow-up with all of the things that I do and continue to do. That I did and continue to do. My brain has been having quite a few issues lately. That's another thing. But all of the things that I do to wake the house up, which I can get right into the energy because I don't have to wake it up. But all the things I typically do to wake the house up, to give the house a little offering, to show the house that I really want to care for it. I really want to take care of it. And even when I go stay at other people's houses for more than a couple days, I always do something for the house. And it can be anything from sending it energy. One of my favorite things to do, because most of my friends are moms and we get it, I just clean a little area that is hard to get to, that you don't get to unless you have spare time, which most of us don't have a lot of. And so I always try to just do a little thing for the house to kind of just be like, hey, house, thank you so much. Because once you can wake that energy up, it's one of my favorite things. Okay, but we can talk about the house stuff another time. Now, when I was done with those videos, when I disowned those videos, I was like, oh shit, I still need a video, right? So I was like, hey, Spirit, what do we got cooking? What do we got going on? And Spirit has been kind of hit or miss in my life recently. I think because I've had so many physical and mental cognitive issues between the physical pain from the move, having to up the dosage of my meds because of the physical pain. The meds kind of really wreaked havoc on my brain and my body in a way that I have never seen before. And is very terrifying. But the only thing that got me through it was my community. And they have lifted me up and supported me in a way that I never dreamed I would have. I didn't have these things when I was little. I never dreamed I'd have them now, but I do. And it is so amazing. And you can see I'm getting emotional because it has been really amazing to see, but it also has been a really hard journey. And so I'm still processing out all the emotions. But overall, I'm very excited to be in the house and I'm very grateful for my community. And with the way the news is set up right now, I think we should talk about the community again. We should talk about not just, I've told you guys we need to have community to support it. It's going to be our main structure, hopefully moving forward with newer stuff. But how do you even get there? right? Because we no longer have this community in our society like I crave, right? Like I crave this community so much, and we don't have it. We don't have a society set up to thrive in this community. And I blame capitalism for that. Other people blame other things, and we're all correct. It's a whole system of why it is the way it is. But I thought today, thanks to Spirit really just showing me how wonderful my community is, and then really showing me how scary the news is, I thought today we could talk about some tips and tricks and steps that I have taken to get this fantastic community, to build this fantastic community around me, of my closest friends and family, of people who truly, truly want to just support and help me, and I can support and help them in return. Before I jump into my tips and tricks, let me just preface this by saying, y'all, none of this means my life is like not messy. My life is very messy. Have you met me? I don't know how to like not do messy. People that come and stay with me are like, are you okay, Rebecca? And probably not, but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. I still have issues. I still have people that piss me off. I still have people that hurt me. I still have family that just doesn't seem to get it together as much as I just crave them to like just do better for themselves and do, I still have all these things. They didn't disappear. But what I have learned to do is I have learned to make really healthy, solid boundaries. And boundaries are something that I uphold. I can let people know what my boundaries are, and I can ask them to respect them. But if they don't, I'm the one that has to make that decision. Boundaries are yours to uphold. And so I've had a lot of time and a lot of help and a lot of therapy because, like I said, I've never had this. I had to learn all of this, and it's scary and it's terrifying, especially when you see people who just kind of get it. People have had this modeled, people have seen things that make more sense, that are more healthy boundaries, and some of us haven't, right? And so it's something that you do have to actively learn. And it takes a while, but it can be really, really beautiful. So just keep that in mind. Tip and trick number 1 is going to be don't ignore your shadow work, right? Just that one should be self-explanatory, but I'm going to explain it anyway. Let's just get everybody on the same page really quick. So when me specifically, when I talk about shadow work, I typically refer to it as like the witch's self-help or like spiritual self-help. It is really looking at those quote unquote shadow parts of yourself, bringing them forward and not ignoring them, not burying them, trying to understand them, trying to learn about them. And it comes in a lot of different shapes and colors. It comes throughout your entire life, because shadow work is not something that you can complete. It's not something that now you're done with, right? Because society changes, our views change. I hope that you're growing. I hope that you're exploring new things and experiencing new things. And in all of this, shadow work is going to come up. That's just how it is. And that is okay. That is what makes us human. That is what helps us grow. That is what hopefully is going to get you into the community that you want to be. So you start your shadow work, you start it for whatever reason, whatever draw you to it. And you really are hopefully learning to love yourself and to forgive yourself, so that when you can receive love in return, it doesn't feel as scary. It doesn't feel fake. You don't want to immediately push it away because it's unknown, and the unknown is always scary, right? So we do the shadow work to be able to receive what we know we deserve, but we have to really, really feel like we deserve it. I always say that one of the worst things you could have happen is the right manifestation at the wrong time. And I see this a lot with people trying to manifest, just like partners and things like that. You don't want the right partner to come into your life at the wrong time, because if you guys don't grow together, if you don't maintain that journey together, it gets very, very difficult. And so I generally say, hey, if you're not reaching your goals, if you just can't get there, let's just focus on our shadow work. Because even if that stuff has nothing to do with you, because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the reasons that your stuff is not coming has nothing to do with you. I know that kind of sucks, but there's a lot going on. So whether that has anything to do with us or not, I normally say just focus on your shadow work and it will come when it's time. So we have to do our shadow work, and we have to model the type of person we want to have in our community. And that's really, really hard. But that brings me into my second tip, right? Model it. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, right? Because we hear things like that all the time. They say like, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Or if you want something, act like you already have it, right? You want a car, you need to clear a space in your garage for that car. Stuff like that. And yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. But at the same time, how are people going to know the type of people that you want in your community if you are not being that type of person yourself, right? Like, it's just common sense. Be the type of person that you want around you. and they will find you when it's time. And I can't believe that I can say that with such, like, I don't want to say authority, but with such authority because I've seen it time and time again, and I have it in my personal life, and I know that it's possible. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's all peachy keen and happy sunshine rainbows, but y'all, it is possible. So don't ignore your shadow work. Model the type of person that you want in your community. I'm not saying like the people in my community have to wear skulls and like black and do, no. I'm saying the people in my community have to be willing to hear outside opinions, have to be willing to have discussions, have to be willing to talk about what's going on, to work out problems, right? We're not going to do this whole like cold shoulder. I'm not going to talk to you because we disagreed. No, we're going to talk about it because otherwise I'm not going to sleep. And the people that are in my community are very similar. I don't expect them to be just like me, but I have my boundaries and I hold them, and it seems to be very, very helpful for my community that I have my boundaries because they know where I stand, they know what I need, and in return they can tell me, fingers crossed, right? They can tell me what they need and where they stand, and we can truly support each other in the way that we need together. Does that make sense? Because that's so powerful. And I feel like we just, again, don't have a society that is set up to even show us how to get there. We don't have a society that's set up to hold each other up and empower each other at all. And again, we're not going to get into why I think that is, but just know that you deserve that. And there's a community out there that deserves to have you in it too. Okay, so we're not ignoring our shadow work. We're holding our boundaries. We're modeling the type of behavior we want to see in our community. And that leads very easily into my next tip, which is choose your words very carefully. And it's probably not what you think. I don't mean like, don't offend anybody. I mean, really choose your words carefully. Really put thought into what you say and how it may or may not be understood. And again, this is a really weird and hard line to walk, especially for a lot of us that are neurodivergent and suffer with anxiety, because it's a really hard to find, where that line is of me trying to be respectful and trying to communicate effectively, and where the anxiety is just kind of taking over. And I want to acknowledge that because that's legit. Just do whatever you're comfortable with. But what I have found is the more careful I am about choosing my words, the more I define what words I'm saying, right? So when I said shadow work, let's all get on the same page. Here's what I mean about shadow work. That is really, really important. Because that not only teaches each other, like that's teaching the other person how you communicate and how they can effectively communicate with you, which I hope they're doing back to me also. It's helping effectively learn how to communicate with each other. And it's also really just helping you guys get on the same page. It's helping you guys meet at a base level, meet at that foundation level to really see if you guys are clicking or not, which brings me to my next point. Have a decent foundation base that overlaps. I'm not saying we're agreeing on all the same stuff. I'm not saying we're working in all the same circles. I'm not even saying we're working in the same circles at all. I'm saying that my concept, my base foundation level of how spirit works matches your base foundation level of how spirit works. We could use different metaphors. They could show different ways. They could be from different wave vibrations. They could appear completely separate. But I want somebody who is able to really understand me. And I want somebody who's really able to fully get where I am coming from at that foundational level, because I have found, and you guys can agree or disagree with me, I would love to know what you think, but I have found that if you don't have that base foundational common ground, spiritual practices in particular can get really, really sticky, which I will get into in a little bit. So again, I'm not saying y'all have to agree. I'm not saying y'all have to do the same work. I have worked with people who work on completely different wavelengths than me. And we often would get completely different information, but it worked so well together. It complemented each other so well together because we still had that base foundation understanding of where the other person was coming from. And then together with your community, you can really just hack a lot of spirit astral stuff, which maybe another video. But have diversity, but have a common ground to come stand on. Does that make sense? And I kind of mentioned it already, but I want to just reiterate, you guys don't have to get the same answers. In fact, I love when I don't get the same answers as other people, because if I'm getting all the same answers as everybody else, we're kind of just staring at each other. We're not going anywhere. We're not figuring anything out. And so I love when my community and the people that I go to when I'm losing it, I love when they get different answers than me, because it is very helpful to not have to do things on your own. It is very helpful to have support, to have somebody to just be like, hey, can you double check this information for me? Can you just ask your team if this sounds right? And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes they can help you, again, hack the system. And the people that you trust to get an answer for you, that even if the answer is different, even if the answer doesn't make any sense in what you're dealing with, the people that you trust to get those answers for you are vital because they really help keep you grounded. They help keep you sane. They help keep you focused on your human life, maybe when you're getting too far into spirit stuff. Because you have to have a human life. You came here to do that, so you should probably do that. And there is such a thing as spiritual psychosis, meditation sickness. There's all of these things that we have to be aware and be safe of. Some of them are mental health things, some of them are people safety things, some of them are general safety things. And it is really important to have somebody that can help keep you grounded, that can help keep you sane, and can help keep you safe. And that just really helps you know, maybe take a step back, or, yeah, you're good, I'm feeling the same thing, right? Like, just having that little bit of support can truly make a huge difference. And again, these people didn't just fall out of the sky when I was like, okay, I'm ready for community, right? No, it's a process. I'm still finding my community. I am still looking and being optimistic and being hopeful and being open and ready. But it is a process and it can take a while. Hopefully it's a lot faster with all the new earth energy and all the manifestation energy and all the stuff that's coming in. Hopefully it's way, way faster. And hopefully we all just show up in each other's lives by next week, right? Like, fingers crossed. But if it's not, it's okay because that's how life is. However, let's keep going. I have more tips and tricks for you. So let's say that you have a really great candidate for, somebody in your community and you're vibing and you're chilling. You kind of want to get a feel for what they're like before you really dive headfirst, right? Because there are a lot of people, especially within the online spiritual community, that are just taking advantage, that are literally out there to take advantage of you, whether it be scammers or witches, people that are trying to just get more people to follow them blindly and do whatever they say and steal your energy. There's a lot of really gross stuff out there. And so you do want to be safe. You do want to suss out if everything's going to be happy or not. So let me talk about both what I do in that situation and also some of the crazy shit that's happened to me that has come up when I have been doing that. And I want to share with you my real life examples because it literally happens to everybody and anybody. It's got nothing to do with who you are and everything to do with who the other person is. So first I want to tell you about my favorite interaction, about my favorite time where two people on the internet met and were sussing each other out. And in case you didn't know, those two people were Rebecca and Rebecca. So me, Rebecca, and Rebecca the Ghost Guide. Who is phenomenal. She is in here. She's going to see this. Hopefully you don't mind me sharing, but it is quite literally one of my favorite stories. Not just because I was a fangirl and Rebecca the Ghost Guide was messaging me, but because we both truly got it. And to see somebody else on the other side of it come completely from their own volition, come completely by themselves, they're not coming from this thing over here. They're not coming, they just came, right? And I need to suss them out. They need to suss me out. We're two strangers on the internet. And it was by far one of my favorite interactions of this whole thing that I'm talking about because it was beautiful. It truly was just beautiful. Let me tell you about it. There are two internet things that I would like to reference for this interaction, which is part of what makes it one of my absolute favorite stories to tell. The first one, have you guys seen that Spider-Man meme where it's just the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other? That is 100% what Rebecca and Rebecca were doing. It was so funny. And I think we both reached a point before we said it that we knew this was what was going on. And like I said, it was really refreshing to see somebody else get it. It was really refreshing to see somebody else practice safety online, to see somebody else not jump headfirst in, and to really take precautions because I did not have good experiences with the people that jumped headfirst, and I did not have a lot of good experiences from people on the internet previously. It has really only been the past few years. And so to see that was very refreshing, and it was very healing for me in a lot of different ways. And Rebecca and all of the phenomenal people that she hangs out with, they still heal and they still are I'm fangirling just thinking about it. I don't understand how I ended up with these amazing people, but I will drink up every moment of it. But what makes them amazing is that they did get it. So I want to share that with you because it was an ideal situation. And ideal situations don't typically exist in real life, but there it was. And so they're real. And I just want to emphasize that they're absolutely so real. But let me tell you about the second internet thing I want to share. I have not been back on TikTok in a hot minute. But there used to be these videos on TikTok and just other social medias that were like showing people how to kind of suss out a stranger or a neighbor, whoever, kind of suss out where they stood politically. And so they would say things about, they would make a statement about a woman and see what the other person had to say, or they would make a statement about the president and see what the other person had to say. And these were just, they could be blanket statements and you could see what they said, or you could say something outright bold, which is a favorite of mine, but probably not a favorite of my husband's for me to do. But you could say something outright bold and just wait and see what they say. And those are top tier in so many ways, because it is practicing safety in its core. And that is, y'all, please, dear God, be safe. Please practice safety. But at the same time, they were really, really good tips, because how do you even safely feel out somebody? How do you safely figure out where they do? Because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in the era of, we don't talk about politics, we don't do this, we don't do that, right? And so especially when you're doing intergenerational things, it can get weird. And this leads me into my next tip, which is to do more listening than talking. Because if you gently guide the conversation one way or another, and then you just listen, they will show you who they are. They will tell you who they are, unless they are Rebecca the Ghost Guide, because then neither of us were doing much talking, because the other one was trying to do all of the listening, which again just makes the whole situation hilarious, and just really refreshing. But please have some sort of system that maybe you have worked out with friends that you trust, or with family that you trust, or just by yourself with spirit, some type of system, whatever works for you, that can help you stay safe now more than ever, both in your human life and in your spirit life. Please, please, please be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the people that you are around, the spirits that you are around. Be aware of their answers, and just really try to do more listening than talking. Another really crazy thing that I've learned, because I was a weird kid in school. I was a lot of weird things in school. But what I learned in school is that if nobody talks to you, they also kind of forget you're there. And then they will say anything and everything, because people just feel the need to talk a lot of times. So do with that information what you will. So let me tell you guys about my system, which maybe is not for everybody, because it's not for the faint of heart. And I mostly am talking about like spiritual community and stuff in this video. So I'm going to try to keep it to the spiritual stuff as much as possible. But I do want to offer just some things that I have in my real life done, especially living in Texas, to try to suss out a situation, to see if it is a safe place that we want to be. And so, for example, one year I wanted to surprise my husband with a gym membership, which is something he had been talking about, this and that, right? Like, I wasn't being a bitch, I promise. He wanted it. And so I surprised him with a gym membership that was closest to the house. But I wasn't just about to blindly sign him up because of where we lived and the color of his skin. And so I brought one of my friends with me, my younger, high schooler friend, and she was not amused. I didn't warn her. My mistake. I should have warned her. She was not amused. But she stopped with me because it was on the way home. She stopped with me into this gym, and I went and I asked some questions. And then one thing that I really, really love and I really try hard to do when I go into these new situations like that is I act really fucking, I just say something way off the fucking wall. I say something batshit crazy. I say something that is true for me, but sounds batshit crazy. And sometimes it's just like a weird comment that nobody understands. Sometimes it's just nonsense, right? And what I say is less important to me than how the other person acts and how the other person reacts and the things that cross their face when they hear me talk, right? I pay attention to all of those subtle things. And I pay attention to not just if they, have shock and awe across their face, like what is wrong with her, but how they kind of like try to recover. Do they try to be, cordial about it? Do they still try to be polite, especially in business settings? Y'all should probably still be polite, even if the customer is crazy, I would think. But I don't want to go somewhere where you're not going to be polite if you don't think I'm up to your standards, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. And so I just walk in the room crazy. And I walk in the room fully the way that I am. For those of you that have seen me at Sacred Spaces, y'all, I don't know how to be anything I'm not at this point. I've worked too hard to grow into who I want to be. That's who I am. And I walk in the room like that. And I very much pay attention to how people react and how they try to treat me in turn of their reaction. Just to clarify, I do walk in the room fully who I am. And people have been staring at me for a long time now. So I don't actually pay attention to the looks that I'm getting from strangers. I don't actually know when the whole room is staring at me. I literally ignore it. I don't care. But I do pay attention to how people treat me one-on-one. I do pay attention to, especially how they treat my kids, how they treat my family, how they treat my community. I pay attention to all of those things. And again, I don't ever expect somebody to agree with me. I do expect them to just let me be me. That's it. So again, this is not for everybody, but you can have that thing that you say. You can work it into your routine. You can get comfortable with it. You should practice it with people that you feel comfortable with at first. You should practice it with, maybe people that you've met already, but maybe you just want to suss them out a little bit more. Don't jump in the deep end, guys. It's a process to work up to. And like I said, I've worked really, really hard to become who I want to be. And it's been a really long process, and I'm still working on it. Like I said, we're always working on our shadow work. Apparently, there's a lot of shadow work for me right now, on top of everything else that's been going on, or in conjunction with everything else going on. I don't know at this point, but have your system is all I'm saying. Have your system so that you can walk through this life more comfortably, more confident, with more love for yourself, with more love for your neighbors, with just a happier existence overall. Let's talk about a situation where I should have done that and I didn't do it, and it actually ended up kind of making me really sad in the end. So this was a few years ago, back when I had time to actually answer messages. I found this woman online and I was really, really excited to talk to her. We were talking about Gaia, and I really thought that she got it. And I didn't do more listening, and I didn't kind of see where she's at. I didn't look at the foundations. I jumped headfirst in. And I know that that was my mistake, because she came to me as she was, and I was expecting her to be something else. And that, I just want people to be who they are. I am all for somebody knowing where they're at. If you know where you're at and you're like, man, that's where I am right now. I'm trying, I'm gonna get there, but that's where I'm at. I am here for it. And that is what I should have done. But what I did do instead was just completely word vomit an entire story to her that was 100% downloaded from Spirit and Spirit alone. There's no mythology base for it anywhere. And it got really weird. And she never talked to me again, which that's the part that made me sad, because I was very, very excited to talk to this person. And I think that I came to her more than she was prepared for. And that is something that I have had to get really comfortable with in my human life, in my spirit life, in general, being more than somebody is able to handle. And I have had to do a lot of work to meet people where they're at. Like I said, I should have done more listening. I should have asked, what she thought first. I should have asked her to define definitions for me. One thing I always do when I talk to new people is, when we're having conversations, I'm like, hey, can you just define what you mean by spirit? Can you just define what you mean by astral? I want to make sure we're all on the same page. And I didn't do that. And I think that in the end, I ended up hurting both of us, because again, she came to me who she was, and I didn't listen and I didn't ask. And I'm sure she's forgotten all about me. I'm sure she just thinks I'm some crazy lady on the internet, and that's fine, because I clearly am still a crazy lady on the internet. But it's okay when you make mistakes, because you have to. You literally have to make mistakes. There's no way around it. And you have to forgive yourself first when you make those mistakes, because if you are holding guilt and you're holding shame, and you're going to try to shove it down, and you're going to try to push it down, and you're going to try to ignore it, and it's just going to keep wanting to come back up, because that's what the purpose of shadow work is. It comes up when you're ready to work on it. And if you're not ready to work on it and you push it back down, that is your business, but it will eventually come back up again. Sometimes we don't have the safety or the mental capacity or the spoons to work on our shadow work. And like I said, that is your business. There's plenty of times where I don't have any of those things, and I simply cannot. And I tell my husband, I'm sorry, I simply cannot right now. And it's hard for him, but he meets me where I'm at. And I appreciate that so much. And so meet people where they're at. Now, that situation with the lady where I just word vomited this random crazy story to her, it was a few years ago. We had only been chatting for a little bit. It was no big deal in the end, right? I remember it because I did learn all of those lessons right there. And I learned very quickly, and I was reminded very quickly what happens when I don't do those things. And that's why I remember that one. But really, it was no big deal. However, I have some big deal issues. I have some big deal ones where people have literally taken advantage of me, where they have tried to take advantage of my human, of the work that I'm doing, just trying to piggyback off of my success. Or in spirit, where I try to, work with people that I thought I had vetted and I thought were good. And I don't know what happened, and again, we have to forgive ourselves for that, because we feel like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I shouldn't trust people. And I always say I don't trust anybody, but I do work really hard to try to. And that's something that I'm still working on, right? So we have to learn how to trust people. We have to be okay when we get quote unquote fooled. But I do want to share, as a precautionary tale, some of that bullshit. The fact that I have such an amazing community, such amazing support with the temple stuff, with spirit stuff, with my family stuff, with just my friends stuff, I have really, really good support. And I have found that the more solid, trusting support that you have, because I always say I don't trust people, but I do have a handful of people that I trust, and I have those people closest to me in the temple, in my life, and all of those things. And I've worked really, really hard to learn how to trust them. Okay, so I say I don't trust anybody, but I have a little handful that I didn't used to have, and I don't know why I still say these things when I have this handful. And it just tells me that it's something I'm still working on. But it's easier to have all of these mistakes happen to you if you do have that little bit of handful. And so when you're starting out without your community, these mistakes feel really, really big. They feel life shattering sometimes because you feel like you finally have support. You feel like you finally have these people. You feel like it's finally coming. And then you feel betrayed and you feel let down and you feel whatever you feel. And so I want to acknowledge that because it's a very, very tricky. The first part of shadow work is always the hardest. No matter what the shadow work is, the first part is typically the hardest because it's the part that is completely unknown to you. It's the part that you've probably never done before. And it's the same with building your community, right? So these things are going to happen. You have to make mistakes. That's how you learn. It is going to be better. It is going to get better. When you start to build up your little handful of people, all of those other mistakes are not as dramatic. All of those other mistakes are kind of just in the wind because you are supported and you're solid. And just, I really hope in this year we all have the community that we so much deserve with each other, both online and in our human life. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the nonsense. Now that we know it's going to feel really shitty for a while, but it will get better, let's talk about the nonsense. I am just going to speak about my own personal experiences, and y'all take from that what you will. But I have noticed a large number of random men from the internet of my complexion. Man, they just really want to teach or help or train or guide. They just really want to take me under their like little wing like a baby bird, right? And you don't know me. That's weird. They don't know what I know. They don't ask what I do know, what I don't know, what I practice, where I stand. They don't ask how long I've been practicing. They don't ask if I have anybody else in my community. They don't ask questions, right? And so that's like my first main red flag right there is you're not asking any questions. You don't care about me as a person at all. You don't care about where I'm coming from, what I know. Huge, huge, huge red flag right off the bat. Now, I have a number of amazing, amazing male presenting people in my Patreon, in my community. Y'all are fantastic. I am not talking to you. Y'all listen. We have great chats. You guys can stay. I'm not talking to you. But y'all, the internet is a wild place. I'm sure to like 99% of you watching white men making a fool of themselves on the internet is nothing new, right? But just please, please, please be safe because people do be crazy. And there's a lot of tricksters out there, we'll put it that way. And y'all, some of them have gotten me, and even well into my path where I feel like, I shouldn't have believed that, or I should have seen that, right? We're gonna make mistakes. And they got me. And one of the situations where they got me, it ended up being very, very bad for me on a spiritual level. Spiritually, I was put in jail. Spiritually, I was, being stolen energy off of. And it was really, really crazy because I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I want to really just like believe everything that you say. I want to, meet you where you're at, right? And trying to do those things, we can sometimes put ourselves in situations that we don't need to be in too. So I bring this up, to show that it literally happens to everybody. It has nothing to do with you, everything to do with the type of person they are. And it's just something that happens in life. When you find yourself in these situations, it is possible to be removed. It is possible to get yourself out of that. Sometimes it's more dramatic than others. I have people that just stop talking to me. I have people who block me. I have people who try to trash talk me all over the internet. It's wild, guys. So please be careful. But more than anything else, don't blame yourself if and when you get fooled because y'all, the internet's a crazy place. Now, I have found myself in those situations more than once. It seems to happen to me like once a year. It's like, oh, this is my like yearly thing. And honestly, at this point, if it only happens once a year, it's a great year. But I have been in these situations multiple times, and typically the first thing I do when I feel like I've got is I turn to Spirit and I'm like, hey, Spirit, where the fuck were you? What was that? Why didn't you stop me? And Spirit's like, yeah, we were here. We were watching the whole thing. But of course, I did need to go through those things. I did need to learn those things. Spirit literally had to let me make that mistake, because if I didn't make those mistakes, specifically when I made them, I wouldn't be able to be the leader that I want to be. I wouldn't be able to provide the safety and the security that is needed for people to make the changes in their life that I know they want to make, right? Like to make the healing, to make the self-love, you have to be safe. And so I need to be aware of how these people come into my life, particular into other people's lives. I need to be aware of what they do. I need to be aware of the tactics, and I need to be okay with getting got sometimes, for the lesson, so that in the end I can be the person that I want to be for everybody. And some of the lessons have been more straightforward than others. We'll just leave it at that. I've been in that situation a lot. I have to learn all of those safety things, all of the like warning signs, all of the red flags, how to negotiate those situations and pull back without causing more issues or, fear of them exploding, because not all of them have been super mentally stable. And of course, I had to learn to forgive myself for feeling like I should have known better. At the same time, I did also, from many of these people, learn a lot of spiritual things, which in a way is kind of even harder, because when you realize that, hey, maybe that person didn't have your best interest in mind, you kind of have to go back into your entire bookcase of spiritual knowledge and double check everything. And double check, again, what you think you know, because things change or people give you information through filters, and there's a whole bunch of nonsense. But all of that to say, I try really, really hard to not write people off. Even if people are not on my level, that doesn't really mean that, right? It doesn't mean much, but even if they're not quote unquote on my level, even if I feel like they maybe don't have 100% the best interest in mind, but maybe they're still safe enough, it is a very fine line to walk, because I do truly feel like we can learn from everybody, and I do truly learn from everybody. 90% of what I know, I think I just know from interacting with people and helping people and chatting and talking and just doing random readings and seeing what's there to see, right? And so it's a really weird line to walk between being safe and recognizing these signs and still having an open heart and having an open mind and wanting to truly learn from everybody, because you can, of course, as cliche as it is, you can learn from everybody. And it's even harder sometimes to make the choice, knowing everything that I know now, knowing all of the hardships and the hurt that I've been through, knowing all the red flags, seeing it clear as day. It can be really hard to still make the choice to not just build a wall, to not just shut it out. And I'm not saying that you need to talk to everybody that messages you on the internet. No, please be safe. But what I am saying is, don't build that wall so high that nobody can ever, yell to you across the top of it. Nobody can ever reach over a neighborly hand, because we can learn from each other. We just have to really find a way to do it safely, which is obviously the most important. That's what I teach my kids. Safety is number one. But also it's really hard to do so and keep a soft heart and not have a hard wall built up. I think the most important thing that you can do to walk that line safely, to be safe and still have an open heart and still have an open mind, I think the most important thing that you can do is to have really, really good boundaries. And again, boundaries are a really hard thing to figure out, to start to do. If you've never been taught what a healthy boundary is, if you've always had a family that crosses boundaries and they don't have any boundaries, learning how to set healthy, proper boundaries feels very foreign. It can feel very scary. It can feel like you are going to be disowned from your entire family. And in some cases that is somebody's life. And I'm not saying it's not, but I am saying, before you start to really walk that line, be safe first. Work on your boundaries. And when your boundaries are solid, when you are ready, when you are confident enough in your ability to tell the red flags, when you're confident enough in your ability to say no, when you're confident enough in your ability to walk away, when you're confident enough in your spiritual guarding and grounding and protections and practices, when you're confident enough in your spirit team, when you are ready, when you can do it safely, then you can start to walk that line. But really remember that you are in charge of keeping yourself safe when it comes to just finagling the situations. You are in charge of your own boundaries, not the other person. Okay, we are like right at that 40-minute mark. So I want to leave you with just my last tip slash trick for forming just the most beautiful community. And that is to not be afraid to play to your strengths and to let your community play to their strengths. And I've mentioned it a million times before, but to have somebody helping you, to have somebody so that you don't have to do it all, that alone is like life changing. But even more than that, I have the people in my community who I refer to for healing, for protection, for safety, for very specific strengths that they have. I don't want to do it all. I don't want to feel like I have to do it all. And I have people that I have worked so hard to have trust with, that I've worked so hard at building these bonds, that we've worked so hard at understanding communications. We have done the work, right? And so to have people that you trust, that you've done the work with, and they've done the work back with you, play to their strengths. Show them that you believe in them, encourage them to reach new levels. And when something comes up that is their area of expertise, ask them for help, right? Because I think one of the biggest things that, again, we are not taught is to ask for help. And I love helping people. In my community, we love helping each other. I modeled that. That's who I wanted. That's who found me. That's who I found. We help each other, right? And whatever it looks like for you guys, whatever it looks like in your community, whatever your strengths look like, whatever their strengths look like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to play to their strengths. And again, the way that we do this safely, both for asking and being asked to help, is to have really, really good boundaries. My team knows that I am here to help, but they also know that I have mental, cognitive, functioning mouth verb problems. They also know that I have physical problems and pain. They also know I have kids. They also know that I moved, right? And so y'all, I made a system with them. Here's the system. This is how it operates. When I bring somebody else into my community, I let them know the system. I let them know where I'm at. I let them know by my boundaries. I let them know the people that are there to help when I'm not. And that is the most brilliant thing that I've ever felt or created in my entire life. That is the most brilliant thing that I think you can do as a human, is to just have that community. Gosh, so much processing today. It is so beautiful. So just don't be afraid to play to your strengths, and don't be afraid to play to your community strengths either. Like, build each other up. Ask each other for help. That is how you become tighter. That is how your community knows what is going on with you, and that is how you know what is going on with your community, because you reach out and you ask for help. Community does not work if we still try to do everything by ourselves. Okay, that is all I have on the subject for today. I also am so very excited to be where I am. I'm very optimistic. I'm very looking forward to just creating my life in this area. I was so happy at the community that I saw just dropping my kid off at school today. We had a really, really heavy snowfall last night. There's a couple cars that slid off the road. One of the people in the school is actually a few people in the school are actually my neighbors, and I have their phone numbers and I can reach out to them when I need help, which I have done more than once already. I had people drop off cookies, and like, the community here is, again, exactly what I've been looking for. And I don't know how I got this lucky, but here we are. And then moving forward from that, let's switch to the temple stuff for a minute. So once even before I'm like fully set up in my house, because I'm ready to get back into the temple stuff, but I am still trying to set my house up because, like I said, I've been going through it. And so I'm getting back to that balancing act between the two of the two major places in my life: my house, my life, my love, my all of these things, and the temple, my life, my love, all of these things. And so I'm getting back to balancing them and taking care of myself and finding what the balance looks like for myself, reminding myself not to try to fight it, to try to just flow. But all of that said, I have some really, really, really exciting stuff coming up for the temple so soon. I am hoping to roll out. I have some people that are creating some classes. Y'all, I am so excited. I'm hoping we're going to roll out classes. We're going to roll out, fingers crossed, more mentees, hopefully one or two new mentors to help like brand new people. I am really, really excited. So I'm in the works with my community, both the ones that are really, really close to me and the ones that are helping to support and build up the temple as much as possible. And I can't wait to share those things with you guys coming up. Also, I don't know if you heard, hopefully you heard, and I'm not spilling the beans, but yeah, there's going to be a Sacred Spaces 3. It is coming up. I will post all the info, because if you were not there last time, if you're not there the first time, be there this time. Do what you can. Of course, I get you have lives, right? Like, have a human life. I literally tell you that all the time, but do what you can if you can come, because it is life-changing. And I know I've said that so many times during this video, but it truly has changed my life.